Hey everyone, Pastor Matt here from Susquehanna Valley Church. Wanted to take a moment and just check in with you about something that's going on in our society. The last couple of weeks as a church, we've been looking at this afterlife series where we've been talking about what the Bible says about life after death and keeping our thoughts and our intentions there in life. And man, there's just an angle of this we weren't going to touch on in the series, but just cannot ignore it with everything going on with so much of the racial tensions that continue to underlie so much of what happens in our society. And I was talking with the staff today, and we just want to make sure that we have a biblical mentality that underlies everything that we think and we do as a basis for this all. So I'm not even talking about all the things we think or say. I just, underneath it all, there needs to be something that's true of the way that we look at it, the way that we talk about it, and our actions throughout all this. So here it is. Like, what the Bible presents is that we are one humanity for one God. We're one humanity for one God. And anything that we do that contradicts a message that's at the very core of the scriptures and something that I think is at the very heart of God. And I think we see that throughout the Bible again and again. It's one humanity for one God. And anytime we're pulling apart from that, anytime we're dividing from that, we're going against a work that God is trying to pull together. So whatever you're going to say, whatever you're going to post, you have to understand that underneath it all, God is doing a work and he's creating a movement in history that's pulling together one humanity for one God. We see it real clearly at the end of the scriptures in Revelation 21 and 26 and 27, where it says the glory and the honor of the nations will be brought into it. Nothing impure will ever enter it. The glory and the honors of the nations will be brought into the final creation that God has in the new heaven and the new earth. And he says nothing impure will ever enter it. And there's just two things about that I think need to stay at the forefront of our minds. Now, number one, if the nations enter into the new heavens and the new earth, then the diversity is maintained. And we follow that up with verse 27. Nothing impure gets in. So then, therefore, we say there's no impurity in diversity. There's nothing about diversity that is wrong, that should be scary, that should be different than how God thinks of it. There's no impurity in diversity. I've said it many, many times. Diversity is a canvas for beauty. If you look at the different cultures, you look at the traditions, and even just the differences in how we speak in our languages and how we look, it's just a canvas for beauty on which we can see God's desire to create a diverse humanity that ultimately is a one humanity that enters in. It's not like you show up at the gates of heaven and God's like, okay, everybody from this point on is going to be white and speak English. No, the diversity enters in. There's no impurity in diversity. It gets to come along for the ride. And so that means the second thing that we need to know is that God gives honor to that which we are quick to dishonor. God gives honor to that which we are quick to dishonor. He says that the glory and honor of the nations will be brought into it. So it's not even just that the nations get to come in, but they bring with them a glory and an honor, which is incredible, because I think we're actually in a shift in America where we used to look at things primarily from the perspective of what's right and what's wrong. And now we read an article and we listen to a news story and we're looking for who do we give honor to and who do we give shame to. It's not who's right and who's wrong. We tend to think who's somebody that should be honored through this for doing right or for being oppressed and for dealing with it, or who's somebody that should be shamed. And I bring that up because I think within this all, as we look at each individual situation, what we have to understand is God brings honor to that which we are quick to bring dishonor. We look at it and we're so prone to be able to attach honor and dishonor based on race, and I want us to just remove that from the picture. Like just take that out of the scenario, because God gives honor to that which we tend to dishonor. So where does that leave us for? I want to ask you a question. Do you reserve honor for what God does? Do you reserve honor for what God does? He reserves honor for diversity. Do you? Do your friendships support that? Do your social media posts support that? Do your responses to articles, do they support that or not? What does that look like? And so just a couple of things. Like, I hope because we can do those two things well. There's just some general truths that can show up in our lives. I hope that because we understand there's no impurity in diversity, and because God gives honor to that which we're quick to dishonor. Just four thoughts real quick. I hope we can be patient with our conclusions and increase our prayers. So you see an article, you see a news story. I hope we can be patient with our conclusions and increase our prayers. I hope we can read it and just hang on to what we think actually happened and just feel for the people who are involved and pray for them. Pray for justice, whatever it is, however God sees it for it to happen. Pray for the people who are involved, the people who are hurt, the people who are scared because of it. So we hang on to our conclusions and we increase our prayers. I hope because we do that we can communicate better, we can sympathize more, and I hope we come to the conclusion in the end that how we love is more important than what our opinions are.